correspondent Reza Sayah joins us now from Tehran to talk a bit about this. And Reza, where do you think the protest movement stands right now?
Well, the status of the protest movement is the subject of an intense and heated debate. And depending on whom you ask, you're going to get a very different narrative. The government of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the supporters of the government will likely tell you that not only are these demonstrations over, they were over a couple of months ago. They will likely tell you that these protests represented a small minority of the population. They'll likely tell you that many of these protesters engaged in violence and vandalized public and private property and were responsible for the killing of more than 60 security personnel. They will also likely tell you that the notion that this was a revolution in the making was a false narrative manufactured by Western powers and Western media and enemies of the Islamic Republic. However, the protesters themselves and the opponents of the government have a very different story. They will tell you that these demonstrations are alive and well. They'll likely tell you that even though the street protests have seemingly decreased, they're devising new tactics to continue to apply pressure to authorities to win over their basic rights. They'll likely tell you the fact that more than 500 people have been killed makes them duty-bound to continue this movement. They'll also tell you that this is a revolution and change is coming. So there you see the information war between these two sides, both sides saying their narrative is the truth. Based on my observations, it's very difficult to say with certainty where things stand and where things are going. There seems to be a decrease in demonstrations, but that doesn't mean they're over. Last weekend, for example, we saw an uptick here in the capital. And what you can say with a degree of certainty, at least here in the capital of Tehran, many women are walking around without the hijab, the Islamic headdress. The morality police, the security force that was accused of the death of Mahsa Amini, they're rarely seen. So that seems to be a change, although the government is not officially saying that's a change. What also seems to be a certainty is that the government is facing a host of challenges, a faltering economy, unemployment, and a population that's frustrated, and they have a lot of work to do to meet the needs of this population that seems disconnected with their government.
And Reza, what kind of impact has the movement had on Iran's relations with the West, particularly those efforts to revive the nuclear deal?
It's had a bad impact. The protests, the crackdown, these executions have certainly undermined relations between Iran and Western powers. There was never any hope that Iran would improve relations with Washington, but there was hope that relations with Western powers would improve. But again, the brutal crackdown, the deaths and the executions have undermined relations between Iran and the West. And now what you have is finger pointing and condemnation. And as long as that continues, the prospects of reviving the nuclear deal seem to be very poor.
Reza Sayah in Tehran, thanks very much indeed.